Hello, Saints Nation. Another victory Monday. Doesn't always feel like a victory, but we've finished the game with more points than the other team, so that counts as a win. So we have a victory in my mind right here. Bonus points. Another black and gold winner. Jokes aside, um, I'm not really going to take a somber tone because I've been shy about the fact that I don't like the guy and I think he's a prick and I think he's a bad teammate and I know he's a bad quarterback. But obviously, Derek Carr is hurt. Um, According to reports, potentially fractured wrist. Um, I don't know if anybody else heard yakety sax music in their head when they saw the play, but I did. I don't. I will applaud the effort that he put into the play. The belief in his head that he was somehow going to fly through the air and clear to larger humans and it wasn't going to end badly. That part doesn't make sense. Definitely not just a doing too much nominee. He's the winner, hands down. Um, but obviously, Carr is probably going to be hurt. Yeah, Cater finished out, the end of the game, and now you really have to figure out what are you going to do these final 4 weeks. You play two good teams. The Commanders are still a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a good team. And you play the Bucks, who are a good team. And they've had a lot of injury problems, the same as the Saints, except that they're 7-6, won three in a row, and the Saints are 5-8. They haven't. Um, Wins are wins, so win against the Giants counts. It's good, but these last 4 weeks, I'm really hoping that they do really what they should have been doing since, like with the exception of the Falcons game. Honestly, they should have been doing this since they fired Dennis Allen. The moment you fired Dennis Allen, it should have been an admission of the Sean Payton era is over. The era of contention is over for now. The rest of this season is about assessment. Assessment of Rizzy, assessment of the staff, assessment of the players. Everything is about assessment. Wins or losses are secondary. But Mickey's delusional, and Mickey believes this team is a lot closer to relevancy than it is. Um, they're far closer to the team that only won 2 games through most of the season than a team that's probably going to end up winning 6 or 7. Um, but they're not a terrible team. It's not a terrible roster. Like that's a narrative that's going to go around, and it's not exactly matching reality either. What a lot of this really does come down to is assessment is super important because it tells you not only what moves you need to make to get better, but it helps you identify the severity of the problems because you can't address every issue in one offseason. It's simply not possible. But there's a difference between players who can't play and players who aren't great. And there's a difference between players who aren't great at everything and players who have a skill set. Brian Brzee is a great example. Brian Brzee was awesome today. I don't care about PFF's grades. They're stupid. They've always been stupid. In this particular case, they're extra stupid. He was great. Literally won them the game. But even before that, he was fantastic all night. Very young player, was under a bad head coach with a bad scheme. More and more is showing the flashes of what you want to see. Brzee is an example of one of those guys, though, hasn't been great in the run game. Okay, well, there's a couple of ways you can approach that. You can look at it and go, we have no defensive tackles, our defensive line is terrible. Or you can look at it as, well, he's a really good pass rusher. And he's a really good athlete. So if I get some mastodon ass nose guard and stick him next to him and reduce some of that pressure, it can actually make him a better player than he is and help cover for his weakness. Because even if that guy I stick in there doesn't really provide much pass rush, that's okay. Brzez's really great at it. They balance each other out. Now that allows you to create more opportunities for the ends. So instead of having 4 spots to fill, which if you take the viewpoint of Brzez's bad against the run. We have nothing. Start it all over. Now you really have one spot to fill. You can like Granderson's a solid defensive end. You need another guy opposite. Fill that. Fill nose tackle. I say one spot because nose tackles are easier to find. Not you know you don't always need a top 10 pick to find a quality player there. Is what I mean. Like it's asset management. That's assessment. Austin Jr. again made some nice plays today. Juwan Johnson's a free agent. Made some nice plays. Now, if I'm Juwan, do I even want to come back here? If quarterback's Derek Carr, probably not, because Derek Carr randomly has spurts where he remembers how to play quarterback and he throws with timing and touch and he makes the right read and he occasionally even throws guys open. And then the other 85% of the game happens. You have to remember why you hate Derek Carr being your quarterback. And speaking of quarterback, it's really the most important question. It's the most important position in the sport. It's one of the two or three most important positions in all of sports, especially team sports. Like it, nothing matters more than figuring out quarterback. You have two young guys who are within their first 2 years, and the 3 year rule is a real thing. Like within 3 years, you're going to know if a player, generally speaking, is going to develop into something or not. The exceptions are stars and busts. Some players are immediately stars, and you don't need 3 years. Alvin was like that. We saw that run against San Diego, and Sean went, and he's not running anymore in preseason because we know what we have. And Sean was right. And there's other guys like Foskey, who Mickey drafted over Branch. We know he this team has no pass rush and he still can't get on the field. Bust. Like he's done. Not making plays, not making plays on special teams, not making plays in preseason, not making plays in practice. He's not doing anything. Bust. But for everybody else, until that 3 year period is up, you really don't even have a full idea. And quarterback, it can be shorter or longer, like depending on the player, depending on the circumstances, depending on the team around them, depending on the play caller. I have a whole nother video around Clint. So you look at all of those factors, and I think personally, we have 4 games left. I think Jake should start 2 of them. I think Spencer should start 2 of them. They would both have one game against a pretty good team and one game against a pretty bad team. Well, someone's going to have to play Green Bay and the Bucks, so someone's going to get the short end of that stick. And since they love to give Spencer the short end of the stick by making him play the Chargers, arguably the best defense in the league, and the Broncos, also arguably the best defense in the league, why not him again? I guess. Um, it's not about the results. In fact, while I hate losing, I prefer close losses the rest of the way. Don't get more than 5 wins. Find a way to lose to the Raiders. Because it's going to help you in your draft pick. It's going to give you a better asset to address the holes on the team, and not just in the first round. But that helps your slotting in later rounds as well. But that's always a weird conversation as a fan. And by the way, never, ever, 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 ever promote players. Well, you guys should just lose. Yeah, some of the most competitive human beings on the planet who put their bodies through hell are going to lose on purpose. Stop it. Um, it's almost as dumb as asking them about your fantasy football score. Stop it. Shut up. No one cares. But I really want to see Jake get 2 games and Spencer get 2 games. I don't even have a preference on who gets what. I mean, Spencer got the start last time. You know, Derek Carr's pushed hard to have Jake as his backup because they went to the same college or something. There might be other reasons we're not going to get into those, but we don't know what they are. Regardless, cool. Start Jake. There, there's some similarities between the two players, but neither of them is separated from each other in any meaningful manner, and at least in what we've seen. Spencer was clearly and obviously the better player in preseason and through most of camp. Jake was mildly less bad against the Chargers, and by mildly I mean they were both but Jake made a couple more throws. He also got some better play calls, and the Chargers were kind of playing prevent. But regardless, It was there. Let him play, and let's see what he does. Because the reality is, you could have two young quarterbacks that maybe have a chance of being good, or you might have zero. And the best indicator for that is going to be real game reps, especially if you go in with the intention of call the game as if you have a Pro Bowl quarterback. And again, separate video on Clint, but here's what I'm alluding to. If you call the game like you have a rookie or a young quarterback who doesn't know what they're doing, it actually doesn't necessarily help protect that player. In some cases, it helps the defense. If your goal is assessment, treat him like he's a starter. You prepared like a starter, you practice like a starter, play like a starter. Now, if you can't execute the starting offense, congratulations, you're in the same bucket as our main starting quarterback, who is most of the time. If you're inconsistent, you're basically the same guy, but you're way cheaper. If you can't do it at all, then we know that you're not that guy. And it allows you to go, okay, this maybe is a backup, but probably not going to be our starter for the future. It gives you far more clarity going into the offseason. That data is important. It also gives you clarity in other areas. You know, Jake comes out there and looks really good and, on time, on target, and is making plays and playing with moxie. All those, superlatives we reserve for players of a certain look. Um, Great. Awesome. It's a good thing. Now you go into camp next year and Spence is like, well, I got to beat him out, or that might be the start of the future. Great, cool. That's a good situation for the Saints. Or the reverse. Spencer plays against, you know, Green Bay and the Bucks or whatever, and either if he looks really good, looks a lot better, looks like he's made progress. Okay. Again, maybe you have something there. They both played 2 games and they both look really bad. You have 3 quarterbacks on the roster and none of them are good. Carr's not good. He's occasionally okay, but he's not good. Good implies that you have a positive impact on the game plan, the team around you, and your chances of winning. And Carr does none of those things. Give him credit. He executed 2 pretty good drives today, or yesterday. That's about it. The rest of the game, he was not good. And for most of the season, he's been not good. We're not going to throw a parade because you scored 14 points on the Giants. And don't bring up all the injury stuff because plenty of other teams around the league have injuries, and yet their offenses still score. And again, some of this goes to Clint. That video will come soon. But the evaluation for Jake and Spencer is not just about them, it's about Clint too. We know he can have success in the run game. Can you develop a viable passing game? Because we know Carr can't read a defense. We know Carr doesn't really work his way back through progressions. He's if everything goes exactly the way it's drawn up, he can look really good. Anytime he's under pressure or he has to think or make plays, he looks really bad. That's who he is. He's been in the league for 11 years. That's who he is. It's stupid to act otherwise. These 2 young players, they're more variable. Can you scheme things in a way that helps them get into a rhythm or find advantage or, do some things where you look at it and go, we can build on that. It's not just about them. The assessment is about their ability to work within the circumstances they're given and execute to a reasonable degree within those circumstances. Clint is being assessed for can you actually create those circumstances? That's the way the rest of the season should be done. Now, how will it be done? Well, Mr. Gumsmacking himself will, of course, convince himself that he already has the coach of the future in the building because they beat the Giants. That they absolutely must do everything they can to protect Derek Carr because he's their start of the future and he's going to win a whole 5 games next year. And nothing will change, and they'll probably screw up the draft because they'll be drafting and operating under the faulty assumption that they're a team that is close. And they're not close. They're not awful. You don't need to tear down the roster. It's not talentless, but they're not close. That's different. So, what is smart? What do I think Mickey's going to do? Those are different things. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Um, please share your shot. Please share any of your thoughts in the comment section and like, comment, subscribe, do all those wonderful YouTube things. And if you're listening anywhere else, Appreciate the listen. Tell some friends. And if you think I'm an idiot, that's okay. Go in the comments and tell me you think I'm an idiot. And I'll probably respond and tell you why I do or don't agree. And if you really hate listening to me, you should find somebody you don't like and make them listen so that they can suffer too. Have a good one.